Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bets. It is Monday. It is November the 6th. It is still 2023. What is going on? Spencer the Guru Urquhart is with me. I am Jim Derry, and today we have plenty to talk about. I'm looking forward to our little debate coming up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, Jim, because I know you seem a lot more positive about the Saints than myself and a lot of fans out there, because I'm just going to start off by saying when you get 5 turnovers and only win by 7, it's not good enough.
You're jumping the gun, man. You're starting it way too early. A reminder that all of our friends out there that Bayou Bets is sponsored, well, not necessarily sponsored, but we're partners with. How about that? Caesars Sportsbook is the official odds partner of bet.nola.com. And if you can remember, so politely we ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. You can always get notifications every time we go live, Mondays and Thursdays at 4 p.m., Datitude on 10 a.m. on Fridays. Although, see, this is why you should subscribe. You would know without knowing that Thursday, we're actually going to go on an hour earlier. We'll be on at 3 p.m. on Thursday. For today, we have plenty to talk about, as Spencer just mentioned. Are you impressed? The Saints won. They beat the Bears. They have won 2 in a row. There are a lot of people who are not impressed by the Saints winning 2 in a row. We'll get into that in just a minute. All you Alabama fans out there, you're excited because they got their revenge on the LSU Tigers. The defense forgot to board the plane, apparently. We're going to get into all that when we talk about LSU. Gabe Henderson's going to join us as well. And Tulane, Spencer, what does it make you when you lollygag? You don't know the movie, right? It's a movie reference. It's a movie reference. It makes you a lollygagger. There you go. Tulane has been lollygagging.
I could have guessed that.
Tulane is a lollygagger because they've been just messing around and letting teams that don't belong into things. They've been letting them mess around. And we're going to have a little Monday night football preview. We'll give you our predictions very briefly. Chargers at Jets. Try to stay awake, I guess, during that. We'll get to all of that. See? Uncle Big Nick knows. Make some lollygaggers. Come on, Spence.
And you be in there with your Bama colors on. Closet Nick Saban fan?
Maybe it was just the back of the mind. I don't know. It just so happened. Honestly, I didn't mean for it to happen. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about with Saints and Bears. 24-17. Saints win 2 in a row. It is now the halfway point of the Saints season. Well, I mean, I guess theoretically or technically, you could have said it was at halftime of the Saints-Bears game when it was 14-14. So halftime of the 2023 Saints season. Spencer, are you saying it's a glass half full or a glass half empty?
Oh, man, I'm trying to stay half full because, when you look at the record and the division standings, it should be half full. But just from watching them play, to me, it's half empty because this team is just – they never can play complimentary football. They started off playing great defense. Offense was struggling bad. Now the offense seems to be getting going. Now the defense is seems like they forgot how to stop people consistently. So this team is just they kill me. Every week it's a new roller coaster adventure. It is pulling teeth dentist office trip. And it's just, if this team's gonna do anything, if they make the playoffs, they're gonna have to get more consistent because they'll probably end up making it, being that the NFC and their division so bad. But unless they clean things up, they're going to be a one and done, just like the Bucs from last year.
By the way, we welcome in your comments and or questions. If you have any questions, I don't know if you do. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you want to type them into the little comment section there on YouTube or Facebook, we'll be happy to show them, read them aloud, and answer them if that's that's what it calls for. I'm going to say this, and Spencer, please don't take offense when I say this, because I'm lumping you in with a lot of other spoiled brat little Saints fans. I mean, let me repeat after me. Sean Payton and Drew Brees are gone, and they're never coming back. This team is never going to be, at least not anytime soon, be what it was in the days of old when, 13-3 was just kind of like, oh, we kind of expect them to go 13-3 or 12-4 or whatever it is, and make it to the NFC Championship game. That's what we expect this team to do. You know what? That's not what we expect this team to do. And what we expect this team to do is basically exactly what they're doing. It is not a surprise to anyone, nor should it be upsetting to anyone if you're a Saints fan of where they are. They are 5-4. They are on top of the NFC South division. No matter how bad it is, Adam Bankston, the NFC South is the worst division. Being number one in the South isn't saying much. Bears-Saints game shouldn't have been that close at all. Carr needs to go, period. You are right. You're wrong. You're really wrong. You're super wrong, period. There you go. There you go. We answered that in a real hurry. The NFC South is the worst division. That is true. But you're number one in it means you're going to get a home game in the playoffs if you finish number one. And the goal for this team from the beginning, realistically, should have been finish number one in the NFC South. And you see now they are the overwhelming favorites in this division, Spencer. Not only are they favored, but it's already moved. Last week when we did the show, it was plus 140. The week before when we did the show, it was plus 200. This morning when I woke up, it was minus 150. You know who doesn't care what the average casual fan thinks? That's Joe Q making a lot of money betting on the Saints because it's now minus 175. And the people who have money are betting on the Saints to win this division.
For sure, which at this point it probably will. I still think Atlanta could, even though they took an ugly L this Sunday. I still feel like they've got a team that's fairly close with the Saints because the Saints just haven't showed enough. Other than that New England game, the Saints have yet to play a complete football game all season. And that's the thing I'm looking for. There's more consistency. And even though they're not an elite team, we know they're not the 49ers or the Eagles or even Dallas, but they just, if they want to do anything in the playoffs, so they've got to play more consistent on just have both sides complement each other. And it just simply hasn't happened. And as we saw, as I said earlier, just you get to win consistently in the NFL, you got to play complementary football. And so I'm not really feeling good about this coming matchup. Minnesota seems to be a team that's coming together and won 4 in a row, even with a lot of adverse circumstances. And having to go to Minnesota, I don't. This screams wrong team favored.
You cray.
They've won 4
you're
in a row.
cray.
Very well coached with Kevin O'Connell.
They are very well coached, but they have a quarterback, and this goes to show you how wrong you are about Atlanta. You're talking about it, and I told you this before this past week. I should have made this a best bet. I did put it as a teaser, but I guess I didn't have enough faith that Minnesota would do exactly what they did. How could I? They were starting some kid named Hall I never heard of before, and then he comes out, and they put in Minnesota puts in a quarterback, Josh Dobbs, who A, is an 8-year NFL veteran, B, has won one game in the NFL in his history, in his career. He's won one NFL game before yesterday, and yesterday doesn't even count because he didn't start, so it doesn't even go as his win. You're talking about
he won one with the Cardinals,
right? He won one with the Cardinals, never won with the Steelers. And so you put this guy in, and he just blows up the Falcons' defense. I thought you told me this Falcons' defense was pretty decent.
Yeah, they were up until this week. They've got the issues,
or the last week, by the way.
And yeah, with the Will Levis thing, yeah, they're having their issues. So that might be wrong. I might be wrong. I can't be right on everything. You know, I'm still gonna pick them to win the division. I know that sounds crazy right now, but I think at plus odds, you're getting some value there. And it's crazy because a few weeks ago, people were wanting to write off the Saints, and now the Saints are the heavy favorite. And so it just goes to show how things can change in the NFL. So if you're going to buy Atlanta, this is the time to get them.
I wish I had cut the clip of me saying one of the values of the year. And it's too late now. But one of the values of the year in the NFL was 2 weeks ago taking the Saints at plus 200. They were giving money away, plus 200. You only had to put down $100 to win 200, or whatever you said, $10 to win 20, however you want to do it. Now you got to put down $17.50 to win 10. It's no longer a value. I still think it's the right play. If you want to put down money on it, that's up to you. But I mean, look, I just don't get the hate for this team. And you can scream at the NFC South all you want to, but there were lots of years where the NFC South was fantastic. No one was complaining about the Saints winning then. No one was saying that, hey, what? No one throws back. When Seattle won the NFC West however many years ago, no one cared. They were 7-9. Guess what? They beat the Saints, and it was a home game in the playoffs, and went on and advanced in the playoffs. It doesn't make a difference. Rochelle Riley says, It's half full. It's all about mindset. Hashtag half full. Lots of hashtags in there, Rochelle. I'm just going to go with you. Go Saints. We are our own breed. The Saints fan is definitely their own breed. That's for sure. So I think there's a lot of in between, and we're going to talk about LSU because LSU fans are very fickle, like Saints fans. Obviously, they're the same kind of fan. But I'll tell you, I just don't get it. Enjoy what you got when you got it, because what I said on Data 2 this morning is absolutely the truth. This team going forward and the salary cap hell that they're going to be in soon, Spence, this might be the last time for a long time that we're talking about playoffs in November. This team could have a struggle going forward. I'm not sold on Dennis Allen, but I'm not ready to write him off either. I think the criticism on him has been way too much. I mean, they're 5-4. Are they? Do they stink? Yeah. Well, I mean, they are what they are. But they go to the playoffs and win a game. I think again, that's all you can expect for this team going forward. We're to say, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Jarrell, I guess. But hey, you're entitled to your opinion. Mr. Horace says we will see when the Saints play Atlanta. It might not matter. I mean, if Atlanta keeps losing, it's not going to matter whether they beat the Saints or not. They've now lost 2 in a row, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, they should win this week. I know Kyler's coming back for Arizona, but he'll be rusty, I would think. So Atlanta should get back to 5-5, and then if the Saints struggle against Minnesota, like I'm thinking, I know you like them in this spot, Jim, but I honestly don't. I think Minnesota's a team that's really trending up, and they can keep this going. They'll be on track to make the playoffs. And I will say this, though, if the Saints can win this, they'll be pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot, but I'm not convinced that they're going to get it done.
I'm not sure that I like them yet or not. I have not gone through and done my research, so I'm certainly not advocating betting on the Saints yet. But I would say this, the fact that there are 2.5-point favorites at a place where they don't win very often. They've only won in Minneapolis twice in this century. I'm talking about throughout the entire Sean Payton, Drew Brees era. So it's not a place where the Saints go and win very often. They don't normally play well. So that will factor in my decision whether it's a best bet or not. I will probably pick the Saints. But again, the reason why I like the spot is just what I told you. When a quarterback comes in like Josh Dobbs did, and has to is basically thrown to the wolves, you don't have time to think. You just go and do it. Now that he's actually got a time to think and prepare for an opponent and knows he's going to be the starter next week, it's a different animal. And the Saints also, now that they're on a roll, can they continue it? Could be where the rubber meets the road for this team. We're going to see. Nick Rusty, Atlanta just lost to a dude who doesn't even know the players' names. I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah, I'll give you this, UBN. If Atlanta loses this week, I'll concede. I'll admit I was dead wrong on them. They are going nowhere. So this is a must win for ATL.
Zoe, cut that clip out. We're gonna have to use that at some point. I know that. By the way, the Falcons, as I came in a little while ago, were only 2-point favorites at Arizona. So that says a whole lot about what the lines makers think about the Falcons. The fact that they're only 2-point favorite. I don't care if Kyler Murray's coming back or not. 2-point favorites in Arizona.
He is. They announced it. He'll be back.
Okay, that's still. I mean, that's insane that they're only 2-point favorite. I don't care who's playing quarterback. Donald says too many non-believers to be for the soon to be. I'll tell you what, Donald. You give me your email address. I won't put it on here. Email me at jderry@theadvocate.com. If the Saints go 7-10, I will have you on my show on Datitude. On the Datitude. If the Saints don't win more than 7 games, I will have you on Datitude, and I'll let you call me any name you want that's allowable on a regular radio station for 5 minutes. Okay, that's how you can go off on me for 5 minutes if the Saints don't win at least 8 games. They have 10 games remaining, right? No, they have 9 games remaining.
9, yeah.
9 games remaining. Yet. They only have to win 3 of those, 3 and 5 against this ridiculously bad
8
schedule.
games. 8 games. They're 5-4.
8 and 9 is 17, right? Yeah. So if they don't win 8 games, you can just call me names all day long. So email me at jderry@theadvocate.com.
Yeah, that mean they'd go 2-6 in the last 8.
Exactly. And if I'm right, you can just disappear back into your hole, and you don't have to be anywhere to be found. So I don't have to call you any names. That's okay. It's okay.
He's predicting NFC South champ.
Yeah, well, let's see. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about LSU because we spent enough time talking about the Saints. I think this is a much more interesting topic anyway, because as we bring on Gabe Henderson, we'll let you talk in just a minute, but I want Spencer to answer me one question. Where was LSU's defense Saturday night?
Where they've been all year. It's terrible. I mean, I should have stuck with my original prediction of thinking Alabama would roll in this game.
You mean as a best bet?
Yeah, I mean, I could have put it on Big Bucks. I was really in favor of that, but then I started doing more research and was thinking that LSU's offense would be able to overcome it. And then, yeah, y'all. I mean, because y'all know LSU, and I guess I know LSU too, but I'm not as close to it as y'all, I'd say. But I just was a little bit swayed, but it was just one of those ones to where LSU's defense just isn't anywhere close to being a national title contender like USC. It doesn't matter how good their offense is.
Yep.
And it came to light on Saturday night.
Look, you were right, 100%. And I just, here's the one thing about this team that's frustrating is, and I put it in the headline up there, why is anyone surprised? I don't think Gabe nor I should have been surprised, nor anyone else, because you think about it now, and hindsight is 2020. But you're talking about a defensive backfield that was already bad before coming into the game, and they're missing some key pieces of their puzzle because of injury, and you got a linebacking core that really hasn't been playing well either, except for Harold Perkins. And so, what Gabe and I were talking about going into the game is we expected them to have a spy on Milroe and play a cover 2, and they kind of did that for the first quarter, and then they got away from it, Gabe, and they started playing some weird hybrid kind of defense that I didn't understand at all. Perkins was edge rushing all of a sudden, and the middle was open for Milroe. And when he wasn't scared to run the football, he'd find guys like across the middle. It was leaving the middle of the field was wide open all night long.
Yeah, Jim, we talked about this and more in pre-production, and I'm so glad that you brought up one of the things that you did, because I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels this way. You guys were kind enough to give me a few minutes here, so just sit back and relax, because I have a lot to say, as I said on Saturday night when I texted you guys. I'm going to say this, and this might sound crazy. Making the SEC title game in 2022 was the worst thing that could happen for Brian Kelly and LSU. Because, Jim, you and I both agree, Ed Orgeron left this program in absolute shambles.
No question.
Absolute shambles. And what that SEC title game did is it really showed people that Brian Kelly is an excellent coach and that LSU could be a contender with the right people. But here's the thing, and we're guilty of talking about it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I didn't have LSU as a very good top 10 team this year. It's kind of accelerated this rebuilding process. And if you just take a look at the roster, it shows that LSU is not there. LSU is not Alabama. LSU is not Ohio State. They are an elite program in college football, but they are not quite on the level that those teams are. As much as it pains people to say it, as an LSU grad, it hurts me to say it, but the reality is that's where we are. And here's the thing. In 2023, we are going into week 11 of the college football season. If Brian Kelly and Scott Woodward were serious about winning, Matt House would have been gone. You would have been fired on the tarmac, Lane Kiffin style, on Saturday night. I'm not one to usually overreact about coaches. Polian last year was an exception. Cam Cameron in 2015 was the exception. Those guys, I'm incredibly patient with coaches. I'm not asking for excellence out of this LSU defense. I'm not asking for what we saw from Chavis's defense in the early 2010s or even Dave Aranda in 2016. I'm not asking for that. Give me 2019, or give me the defenses that we saw in 2015 from the guy that was standing on the opposing sideline on Saturday night.
Can I tell you what the problem is, though, Gabe? The problem is that you're asking for something that isn't possible no matter who the coordinator was. Now, that is just a big part of the coach's problem, because they are the ones that recruited these players. Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe a lot of these guys are still Ed Orgeron's recruits, but Brian Kelly with the transfer portal, And look, I love Brian Kelly. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly, obviously, that Ed Orgeron basically left his program in shambles, to where I'm shocked that they didn't go like 6-6 the next year, or worse, become basically Texas A&M from last year. Jimbo's ruining the Texas A&M program. We're seeing that right in front of our eyes, and they keep holding on to the guy for some unknown reason. At least LSU was smart enough. And look, I love Ed Orgeron. I know him personally. I love the guy. I think he's a fantastic person, but he left this team in a place to where I thought they were never going to be able to come back out of, or at least not anytime soon. Ryan Kelly was able to do that. But look, you got to have the horses in college football, and LSU simply doesn't have that. And the fact that I thought that they could have a one spot that was bad, which is defensive backfield, and get away with it, and the rest of the defense was average, except for Perkins, who was great. The fact that I thought they could get away with that, I think I was jaded. And Spencer, looking back, had the right call on that. And, he said here on this show that they couldn't keep up with Alabama, and he was right. But, who knows? If Jaden Daniels doesn't get knocked out of that game, maybe they'll able to come back. That kid is that good. I'd like to see him still in the Heisman debate, I guess you should say. But we know that he won't be with it because he has 3 losses, and it's not his fault. Spencer?
Yeah, even then, I mean, if you look at it, LSU's 97th in total defense. Not only should that never be allowed, I mean, the fixes are there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we can get a great defense out of LSU. That's not what we need. We need something better than 97th, though. I mean, look back in 2019, LSU allowed 35 points, which is what this defense is averaging against non-conference, against all opponents not named Army or Grambling. Take those 2 games out because they're the exception. You should play well against those. They're averaging 35 points a game. The 2019 team allowed that 5 times.
But they had that team had a DBU backfield.
Yes. And not only that,
Patrick Queen and a lot of other guys.
They played 7 top 10 teams, so it's a product of the schedule. But this team is allowing that to the Arkansas of the world. Arkansas, who got almost shut out for all intents and purposes. They had a field goal against Mississippi State. That's all they could score, and they scored 31. So here's the thing. With Alex Grinch gone at USC, Matt House now has nowhere to hide. He is now the worst defensive coordinator in America, and I'll go as far as it's bad.
It's bad.
He needs to apologize.
Apologize?
He needs to apologize to Jaden Daniels, because this might be one of the biggest Heisman snubs ever. Yeah. Because I don't even think he's going to be invited to New York at this point. He's so far down the list.
I don't know, man. I don't think
he's got the 3 losses.
He might still get invited to New York. We'll see. Spencer, I'd like to get your take on this comment from UBN, because it's funny, but I kind of agree. We never even talked about this aspect. That's what a lot of people are talking about. If Saban didn't order the code red, you have to know. Another movie reference on this show. This is the 4th time that number 15, what's his name again?
Turner.
Dallas Turner, that's it. Dallas Turner just plowed Jaden Daniels into oblivion. I understand why people are saying, I understand the defense of why it wasn't targeting, but I don't agree with it at all. There were people actually defending it by saying he went into the chin, which is not the head or neck area. I'm like, huh? How is that a defense? The head, I mean, it sure seemed like targeting to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. That wasn't the only call. They had a lot of calls throughout that just seemed to go Alabama's way. And it just goes to show that when you go to Tuscaloosa, you got to play even better than them. Like, not just a little better than them, but a lot better than them, because you already know they're going to get the help from the refs. And it's just one of those things. I'm not going to go full on conspiracy and say they're paying the refs, but I do feel like when refs crew in Tuscaloosa is probably going to be a little more reluctant to call stuff on Bama, because it's just they've been at the top of the mountain for so long. It's like with Brady and Belichick out of Patriots would seem to get a lot of calls. Not saying they paid them off, but I feel like it was one of those things when you're calling a game for someone and you look at that sideline, it's just like psychologically, I feel like it's probably a little harder to go against Nick Saban or Belichick.
I think that's a huge part of it. And Gabe, I will say this before we move on, because we do have to move on. We're getting close to the last 8-10 minutes of the show. But I want to ask you, you watch a lot of football, a lot of SEC football. I have not looked this up, so this is not without doing any research. But and anyone who's listened to me over the course of the past 8 to 10 years knows that I'm not conspiracy theorist. It takes a lot to make me say the refs had another agenda. But I will say this: have you ever seen that officiating crew before? Because I haven't. I've watched a lot of SEC football. I have not seen that officiating crew, which makes me beg the question. If they haven't done a whole ton of games, and they certainly haven't done a ton of big games, why would you throw this kind of crew out there for what has to be one of the biggest SEC games of the year?
Yeah, I don't know. I know we only have a minute or so I'll make this quick. I'm not even going to entertain the talk about officials. I think that it was clearly targeting. I think Dallas Turner should be suspended subsequently for targeting. I think he should have to miss the next game. Not that it'll really matter. But I mean, at the end of the day, LSU made a mediocre Alabama offense look unstoppable. Jalen Milroe set records. And you said a few minutes ago, you have to have the personnel out there. And the reality is LSU might not have the personnel out there to be an incredible defense, but we said it all week. We said Perkins should be a spy on Milroe. And what really made me angry was after the game, this was today, Brian Kelly said, quote, looking back at it, we should have used a spy technique. You have got to be kidding.
You and I were saying this before.
It is incredible. You and I have said it for 2 weeks. It's incredible that you are paying a coach in Matt House who does not know this.
I don't.
With LSU out of title contention now for the national championship, the SEC, anything, Matt House needs to be fired, and that's all I'm going to say on that.
All right. Well, Gabe, I'm glad it got out of your system, and everything's okay now, and you can woosah for a little bit.
Move on to Florida.
Take a couple breathes. And we are going to do that because we do for 2 minutes. Thanks, Gabe. We'll talk to you on Thursday when we do. You're not going to be – I don't think you're wearing the turkey hat this week. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts away, but I can't call you giblets this week. It's not.
I'll be 4-1. 4-1 if the Chargers don't lose by a field goal tonight.
Not going to be nearly as much fun. All right. One thing I want to point out, Spence, and if you look at these stats, no one was complaining about LSU giving up 500 yards to Missouri because they won the game, but it's different when it's Bama and you lose, so, as much as we've been talking about this LSU defense being bad, and they have been, it's only a really big deal when you lose, right?
Yeah. I mean, they lost to Ole Miss too, because of the defense, and Arkansas was an ugly performance. They skated by Mizzou.
But you see that first number is a 5, and LSU's number, basically the stats are the same stats. And everything changed when, I know that LSU was still losing I think they were losing by 2 touchdowns when Jaden Daniels went out of the game, but they had showed the capability of being able to come back. The stats are really close. I'm just saying that I don't think it was as far apart as people think it was.
Yeah, it was a back and forth contest. And I mean, if Jaden wouldn't have gotten hurt, they may have scored one more touchdown. And so it's one of those things. I'll say this about the Heisman before we move on. I feel like it's pretty silly that we worry about wins and losses.
I agree.
To me, it should be just individual statistics. And I know that Penix probably going to end up with the best stats, and his team's going to be better with record-wise. I'm sure he'll win it, or maybe McCarthy from Michigan. Although to me, his stats aren't anywhere close to Penix or Jaden. To me, Jaden Daniels should still at least get to go to New York and be one of the finalists, because the kind of season he's having, it's ridiculous. And just because Michigan's a better team, that they're going to say J.J. McCarthy is more deserving.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with Gabe. He's the best player in the country this year, period. And to me, that's what the Heisman Trophy is about. The only thing I'll push back on you is I don't care as much about stats. If you watch college football on a regular basis, you know who the best player is. And right now, I think it's either Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix. I hate the whole quarterback gets the Heisman thing, right? Basically, that's how it's been. But in this case, this year, this college football season, I think the 2 best players in America are both quarterbacks. I think it's Michael Penix. I think it's Jaden Daniels. And honestly, anybody else that might get it, I think it's a farce. That's just my opinion. Before we move on real quickly, and we're going to preview this on Thursday, but Florida, LSU a 13.5-point favorite. Been a rough year for Billy Napier. You got to think LSU is going to come back with a vengeance here.
I would think, but Jaden's in concussion protocol. If he doesn't clear protocol, I'm not confident in us. Not enough confident in them to be able to cover this. I think they'll find a way to win at home, but 13.5. And then if it's announced Jaden's back, that'll probably be like 14 or 15. So, I'm not touching this right now early. Well, we'll see how things play out during the week.
I will say this to Spencer's point. If you like LSU, you better get it now, because if you wait, first of all, I don't think it's going to get any lower than it is now, that 13.5. And if they announce that Jaden Daniels is playing, I agree with Spencer. It's going to go to 15 or 16. Now's the time to get it if you like LSU. And I'm not telling you to bet that. But I do think Nussmeier is going to play well if he plays. He's a great backup. There's a reason why he didn't leave. He knew we would get a chance to play. And I think this could be it. All right, we're going to talk briefly about Tulane. Did not play very well again. 3 weeks in a row, Tulane just kind of stumbles along. But you look at the stats, Spencer, and it wasn't really as close as the score leads out. Tulane's like a cat and a mouse. Like, you're going to bat them around, you play with them. They're having fun, okay. You take the lead. Okay, you go ahead, take the lead. All right, now we're going to win the game. I mean, that's kind of what they've been doing. They let ECU score 10 points early, and then just Tulane kind of took over. And again, you look at the stats. If I didn't know what the score was, I would have thought Tulane covered the 18-point spread, but obviously they did not.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Tulane right now. I mean, I know you seem to be a little more calm about them, Jim, but I'm starting to think that they're just not as good as last year. I mean, Pratt's been okay, but nothing special, and they definitely missed Tajay Spears. Their offense isn't nearly as explosive as last year. I still think their defense is about on par. So I think this is a week, though, and I believe it's actually at this one's.
It is. I was about to say that graphic. I made a mistake on the graphic. It's Tulsa at Tulane, not the other way around. Tulsa is at Yeoman this week.
Okay, this is one you return to Yeoman. This is one you need to blow the doors off Tulsa. I mean, Tulsa's not very good. They're
really bad.
They've been playing this cat and mouse crap now for the past 3 weeks. They've had these close AAC games, managed to squeak them out. So this is one you just gotta put the throttle down and get in a rhythm, because if they don't get in a rhythm before that UTSA game, I don't see them winning that, because unless they get something more consistent going, I just don't feel confident enough in them to string, what would that be, a 10-game winning streak.
Yeah. UBN, he's like bragging because he got a pick right. Good. I mean, you took Trends 101. Pick the team that hasn't been covering. That's Tulane. They haven't been covering. So what makes anyone think? I would say this: I don't want to bet against Tulane, because I don't want to be looking foolish on the other side when they do win 145-0, and they are going to win 140. It might not be this one. Yeah. It may or may not be this week, and I know there's only a few weeks left, but I just don't want to look like the silly one when they do it, because it's going to happen. Tulsa's terrible, and I know ECU is terrible too, but this one's at Yeoman. They give their fans a chance to see what the real Tulane's all about. And if you look at these stats, I mean, ECU, they scored 10 points early again and did nothing the rest of the game. They had 190 yards of total offense. That's just, again, Tulane playing around with their opponent. They may or they may not. UBN's going to be on Datton Thursday, and he can give us his pick. He may have him on again. He may not. All right. Before we go off this afternoon, Spence, I do want to talk about Monday Night Football and give our very brief, concise predictions on Chargers at Jets. I think we're both on the same side from what we were talking about last Thursday, but this is a snooze fest. It'll be on in the background, but I'm not necessarily going to be trying to watch this to find the intricacies of whether Justin Herbert can carve up. I mean, the over-under is 41. If there's anything, I mean, you got to like the under, right?
Yeah, this is not a very exciting matchup. I do kind of like the Jets here, though.
Okay.
I think the Jets kind of give Justin Herbert some trouble. He hasn't really gotten in a rhythm this year, and in their offense, I mean, Keaton Allen, Austin Eckler, everyone's getting a little up in age, or they don't seem quite as good as they used to be. Mike Williams is gone. If Quentin Johnston can get the deep passing game going, if he can catch a couple big ones, that could be the difference. But the Jets have a sound secondary there with Sauce Gardner leading the way, so I would lean toward the +3 with the Jets. Probably not quite confident enough to take the money line, but I could definitely see him winning this. I think Garrett Wilson has a feast tonight.
Oh, don't say that. I'm
Chargers
playing against
secondary
him.
is terrible. Yeah, I got him in
I
our
know.
fantasy. So
That's right.
yeah,
I'm playing
that's
you.
my only hope is I'm down big right now against you. But if GW goes off, then might have a shot.
No, man, I need Herbert and Garrett Wilson to just take the night off. Y'all can come back next week. Although I will say one of my best bets for the week in big bucks was a money line parlay with the Browns, which that was before that number shot up from 8.5 to 12.5. I got the Browns and the Chargers in a money line pick parlay. So I'm obviously needing the other leg of that parlay to hit. So I'm just hoping look, I think the Chargers are just a better team than the Jets. I said this the other day. I do think they cover. I would probably rather play the under. I do like the under more than I like the Chargers -3. And this number is not -3 in the traditional sense, by the way. I believe it is -3 at -120, which means you got to lay extra lumber. You got to pay $12 to win 10 at -3 because it's been -3.5 the past couple of days and just kind of dropped a little bit. I just, you know what, honestly, do your body a favor and go to bed early and just don't watch the game. That's how boring I think this game is going to be. I don't like anyone in fantasy tonight except maybe Justin Herbert. I think he'll be able to do enough to make himself relevant. But other than that, I just don't see this being much of a game. Zach Wilson stinks. I think the Jets are going to have.
He's been a little better.
He's awful. It might be maybe Breece Hall will have a good night. I don't know, but I'm not putting Zach Wilson on any DFS team. That's for sure. So you can if you want.
I was gonna say maybe. I mean, I'm sure he's a lot cheaper than Justin Herbert. So, and the Chargers secondary being as bad as it is, I probably would recommend Zach Wilson for DFS.
There you go. No one's going to take the Chargers defense. Maybe that's a good time to do that. I don't know. All right. Final thoughts before we go off the air. I want to take 20 to 30 seconds talk about something that I know most of the planet doesn't really care about. But here's the thing about, sometimes baseball, and the reason why I think they've been losing ratings more and more is because sometimes they just do things that don't make sense. And today it was a giant move in baseball that I thought didn't make sense for either of the parties involved. The Cubs decided to fire David Ross, who I thought was an excellent manager, brought this team from, we talk about, LSU being left for dead basically by Ed Ogeron. Well, the Cubs were basically left for dead by Joe Madden and this organization. They sold out to win the World Series in 2016. David Ross brought this team out of the abyss, and I thought he was doing a really good job with them. And so for some unknown reason, not only did they fire him, but they bring in the enemy, Craig Counsell, who's been managing the Milwaukee Brewers for the past, 5-6 years now. And sure, he was okay. He's done an okay job with the Brewers, but they had a lot more talent than the Cubs have had. I don't understand this at all, Spencer. Someone make it make sense that they're going to fire David Ross and bring in Craig Counsell. Is it simply so other teams can't have Craig Counsell?
Yeah, it just goes to show the Cubs ownership must have a lot of money to throw around because you got to buy out David Ross and pay Craig Counsell top dollar. Yeah, I was kind of confused by it, but I feel like the Cubs owners, like you were saying, they just love they're those spoiled rich kids that just like to throw money around. So it doesn't really surprise me that they did that.
Zoe's reveling in my misery and saying the Cubs, this White Sox fan is saying the Cubs are the best at self-sabotage. You're stealing my lines now. These silver spoon-fed, spoiled rotten brat. I mean, spoiled rotten has kind of been the theme of today's show, huh? So that's why we should end it with the Cubs, because there probably aren't more. There are very few more spoiled rich kids on the planet than the Ricketts family. So I want to be like them one day when I get older. I don't know. Maybe. Anyway.
We win one World Series every 100.
Exactly.
Years.
Well, I probably won't be around for the next one. There's just a good chance. Hopefully my kids will. I don't know. All right. A reminder before we go off the air again that Bayou Bets is official odds partner with Caesar Sportsbook. We thank them for doing so. They're the official odds partner of BetNotNola.com. I fumbled that, but I will not fumble the line that's subscribe. We ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel so you can always get notified when we're going on the air. And we do have a programming note. We'll be on the air 1 hour earlier on Thursday. Maybe it's because of the time change and we're still screwed up. And is it really 3:39 or 5:39? I don't know. I always mess that up. Whatever. I got to sleep later yesterday and it was nice. So whatever. We're on at 3:00 on Thursday. We hope you can remember that. And if you can't, you subscribe and you'll get notified when we're coming on. You won't even have to remember. Final thoughts, Spencer, before we go off the air?
Nothing too much.
No?
For those NASCAR fans out there, I had the championship race yesterday. Congrats to Ryan Blaney, first time NASCAR champion. So then we'll be back at it in February. It's the longest season out of any sport, February through November.
It just seems like basketball because it started again. College basketball too. Well, I'm sorry, Zoe.
Yeah, college basketball first week this week.
First, Zoe told me before we went on the air that college basketball, women's college basketball, for the first time ever, played in Paris. They played in Paris. I wonder if they ate a Royale with cheese when they were there.
Croissant.
Well, I think it's croissant, that pal. Oh,
I'm not French.
You're from Lafayette, for God's sake.
Cajun French. That's different.
All right, definitely different. All right, we're gonna close out the show. We thank you for joining us. Everyone, have a wonderful week. We'll be back at it on Thursday at 3:00. Thomas Casale is scheduled to be with me. Spencer, Gabe also will be here. Zoe, we're gonna have to put her on screen. You better be ready, Zoe. You're coming on screen Thursday because technically, even though she'll be on again after that, we know technically it's her last day before she moves to another department. We're sad here at Bayou Bets. But you're not sad because we're leaving. So we'll talk to you later. Everybody have a great week.